Hi, thank you for joining us for Confessions again, another week, another Tuesday at 7 p.m. I am Karen Lewis, your host of Confessions, and here we talk about abuse to help victims break the bondage and the chains of domestic violence, sexual assault, any type of abuse there is. We want to end all types of violence, and we need your help to do that. So yes, I'm asking for money again this week. We need money so that we will always be able to purchase bus, train, and plane tickets for our victims to be able to escape their abusers and start a fresh new life for themselves. The Angel House is not a shelter, but we will relocate victims to start a fresh new life for themselves, and we need your donations because we could be assisting your mother, your daughter, your niece, your nephew. Even your nephews go through abuse too. So I want you all to realize females are not the only ones that have been abused. So whoever we can help get through this cycle, we will do that. The Angel House assists women and women only because it was my daughter who passed away, who I had to see, laying in that casket holding her own baby. So God, we ask you on tonight that many, many people realize that it could be their mother, their sister, their aunt, their granddaughter, their goddaughter. So therefore, we're asking for donations. Any amount of donations will always help us to purchase those train, plane, and bus tickets. So I thank you for that on tonight. And tonight on Confessions, we're going to do something absolutely different. For the past 7 weeks, you have seen me interview different women that have gone through abuse here on domestic violence. The first couple of them even said they didn't even know they were going through domestic violence. They thought they were just fighting. So today we're going to interview a male to get his point of view on domestic violence. And this guy is a part of my life and will always be a part of my life. And I'm saying that because this has been my friend since high school. Him and his wife have stuck by me. I don't know whether they heard about my daughter on Facebook or on the news, but they reached out to me when my daughter was murdered. They understood that I wouldn't be able to deal with that, but both Mr. and Mrs. Thomas Guyton has always been there for me during these past 7 years, helping me deal with the death of my daughter. I will always thank them for that. I will always love them for that. But today I'm going to have Thomas Guyton talk about domestic violence, and you all know me. You know me well by now. This is the 8th week that we're doing this, so you know I'm going to butt in while he's talking to ask him quite a few questions. So deal with it on tonight. I love you all. Thank you for sending your donations in to the Angel House at 33228 West 12 Mile Road, Suite 189. And that's Farmington Hills, Michigan 48334. Or you can Cash App us, which is up on the screen now, KRT3. Or you can go online to theangelhouse.org and make your donations. We appreciate you all, and I love you all for helping me save a victim every day. So, how are you today, Mr. Thomas Guyton?
I am blessed and highly favored. How about yourself?
I am too, sir. And I just want you to know I will always love you.
Absolutely.
And I thank you so much for coming on my show today and for us being able to talk to you and to hear your story about domestic violence, because it wasn't physical with you, but you're going to tell us how you ended up in domestic violence, and people don't realize that bullying is domestic violence. So
absolutely.
You're going to explain that to us now.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
When I was coming up in school, or first of all, coming up in my home, I was brought up in the typical black Southern style home, and my parents taught me if you get hit, you hit back. That's what we're all taught. And I was the baby of the family. I had one brother and 2 sisters, and they were tough with me. And the thing that was different from me, between me and them, they had it more in their spirit to be fighters. I admire my brothers and sisters. They were tough. They didn't take no stuff. I was more the soft, introverted type. And with that, they would be outside doing stuff, and folks would ask my brothers and sisters, did Thomas move? Where's he at? Because he ain't nowhere around. So I kept things inside. So when I talk about being bullied in school, if I talk about it today, my brothers and sisters would look at me like, really? That happened to you? But for me, when I was in school, by me being introverted, but yet still being a fairly big guy, I was always big compared to most of the people. I was the best target for a bully. The best target, because I'm the bully that makes you really look, or you can be the bully that looks good because you took on the big guy and beat him up. And that was me. And I internalized that. Now, by having that inside of you, you know the old saying, people say, hurt people hurt.
Yes.
That could have very easily have been me. Fortunately, I had the internal fortitude that when I went from junior high school to high school, I found out that I have a bigger weapon than my fist, and that was my mouth. So I talked a good game when I made that switch, because I'm thinking, these people ain't gonna know me, so I gotta make them think that I'm tough even if I'm not. Mm-hmm. So when I went to school in high school, I was like, I will whoop yo, you know what. and it worked out. But that taught me a lot of lessons. And one of the lessons is how you handle yourself in these circumstances. And how, the one thing that I would have been a lot happier with myself. Because there were some times, I'll be honest with you, there were some times where I thought, man, end it. I actually, yes, mama ain't here, but my sister and brothers, your brother did at one time or another just feel like saying, I just don't want to live no more. Mm-hmm. Yes, I had that thought.
And all that came from the bullying that you were dealing with in school?
Absolutely. Mm. And this will shock them, because I never, ever, even to this day, I've never told them anything like that. Mm-hmm. But it did make me stronger. Mm-hmm. And if I can do anything, is to make young men and young ladies realize that there's no harm in reaching out and asking for help. Mm-hmm. Even if you're the big kid, there's no harm in that. Mm-hmm. I was the sensitive big kids. Open up. But the other thing that you have to do is be confident in yourself. Love the Lord, but even bigger than that, love yourself. Mm-hmm. Know that you are better than this. You don't have to take that. So for me, what I want to do as time goes by, when I'm in retirement, I got more time, I want to do some male mentorship type things, mm-hmm. that sort of thing, where I can talk to young men. I'm not a wealthy guy, not by any manner, shape, or form, mm-hmm. not at all. But between my wife and I, we've managed to make a pretty good living for ourselves. Mm-hmm. We've done okay. God has blessed us. So I want some of these young men to realize you don't have to drive a big fancy car. You don't have to sell drugs. You don't have to have a jump shot and be able to dunk the basketball in order to have a successful life. Right. So I want them to see that through me, but also understand that their power doesn't come from their hands.
Yes, yes. And let me ask you too, I want to go back to your elementary school. Mm-hmm. When guys in 7th and 8th grade and they're being bullying like that, mm-hmm. do you feel with that bullying and they take it on into high school, do you think that even if there's no abuse in their homes because they were bullied so much in school, it could cause them to be abusive to other people?
Oh, absolutely. Yes. Okay. It usually in that sort of circumstance, it falls under two categories. One is a feeling of insecurity. You'll find that most young men, that if they don't do well in school, or if they're somewhat mentally limited as far as their learning capabilities, they'll take it out in that manner, shape, or form. As far as bullying, that was their sense of control. Mm-hmm. I may not be able to be the smartest kid in class, but I'm going to interrupt the class, or I'm going to push him around to make me feel important. One.
So they want to draw attention to themselves.
Exactly. Or not necessarily draw attention to themselves, but make you not look at their weakness.
Oh, okay.
So okay. If you're looking at their strength here, you're not paying any attention to the fact that they can't add.
And they can't read, okay.
And I'm sure you and I both know there are some people that we graduated with that can't read a checkbook.
Right.
Or can't write a check.
Right, right. So the mentorship program that you would be interested in doing, it would be like going, because that's how I started out once Tracy passed. I started going into elementary schools and junior high schools, speaking to these students. And these little students were, even in the elementary schools, it helped me. It was therapy for me. Mm-hmm. So do you feel that if you were to go into those schools to start your mentoring program, that it would help the young males understand what you're not getting? You may not have a dad at home, and you're just in a single mother home, but Do you think the male mentorship program like that in the schools would help these males growing up?
Oh, absolutely.
Okay.
And I'll tell you where I feel guilty, and I feel guilty in this respect. It's not because I didn't do my job with my child, because I think I've been pretty good at that in that respect. But the group that I grew up with, the men that the men that I'm around now grew up with, we come from a generation where 9 times out of 10 our parents were at home. We had mama and daddy at home, so we can't make that claim that daddy wasn't there in our group.
Okay.
We're the group that dropped the ball. We're the ones that dropped the ball and said, "Oh man, you got a baby over there. Don't worry about it, dude. Come on, man. We hanging out tonight." We're the ones that started that.
And you are speaking the truth, because we did. We had a mother at home, we had a father at home, and if we didn't have we might have had a mother and a stepfather at home, or we might have had a father and a stepmother at home.
But it was two.
It was two.
Yeah.
It was two. So I understand what you're saying. Our age group, quiet as it's kept, the 60s. We're the 60s. We're in our 60s, but yeah, we're the ones that dropped the ball. But even before that, because even, I listened to my grandmother's stories and the great-grandmother's stories. If it wasn't them, it was their friends that were being abused. But back then, and in the 40s and the 50s and maybe in the 30s, they didn't mention that.
No.
They kept that quiet. And they still ran that two-parent household with raising us that were born in the 50s, and some of us in the early 60s, but I wasn't one of them. But yeah, those two-parent households, it kept us from doing a lot of wrong.
Absolutely.
It kept us out of jail, because we had people and friends going to jail back then, but nothing like it is today.
Oh, absolutely.
For all this murder and abuse, and the violence is totally different now.
Now, you know what ticks me off? I will hear guys our age, and I'm around these people all the time. It ticks me off. And they'll talk about like rap music. They'll say, "Oh, that music, that's crazy, that's nasty, this, that, and the other." Or they'll see these young people, and they'll go, "Look at them. They don't listen to nothing. They hard-headed. You can't tell them nothing. Look at them." And my thought process when it comes to that, I don't get mad about that sort of thing when I see these young men do that, because we nurtured that. We spread the water.
Hello.
And had that grow up. So if you weren't there, you ask some of these same guys who said, "Look at them, that young man, he had his pants hanging halfway down." How many kids you got? 5. How many lived with you? 1.
Maybe none.
Exactly. So, dude, who are you to talk?
Yes.
When you weren't even there for your own. Now you're going to sit here and talk. Now, I was there for mine, but, and even with that, my daughter was 1.5 years before we got married. She was 1.5 years old. And so I wasn't in-house daddy. I did the best that I could. And I think my wife would tell you that overall I was okay. But the thing that I wanted to push to young men who feel inadequate, and that causes violence as well. That's another thing. And I've explained this to certain people in my family that will go nameless for this particular time.
Oh, yes, please. You always have to go nameless.
I explained to them that whatever you cannot do, that's part of your manhood as far as your relationship and your child, whatever you can do, double up on the other end. Double up. Make sure you do everything else and got that on point. And I'll tell you this story. My daughter was 1.5 years before we got married. I still live with my mama and daddy. My wife still lived with her mama and daddy. She got a job before I did. So my daughter, my girlfriend then, who is my wife now, would bundle up our daughter, get her clothes on, bring her over to the house where I was, and my daughter stayed with me during that time. And it was me and my mother, but here's where I'll give myself some credit. My mother didn't watch my child when she brought her over there.
Because it wasn't her
that.
child. That's right.
Exactly. I did that. But that was me making up for the inadequacies that I had on the other end. And that's what these men have to learn how to do, how to channel their energies, because if they don't channel it, that's when you get the guy saying, "Oh, okay, girl, where you going? You got a job. You think you this now." Then you get the bang, bang, bang.
And not only that, these girls leaving these babies with the fathers, they're being molested. They're being sexually assaulted, little babies. I'm even talking about, I read an article where one was 6 months old and the mother was at work and the father was penetrating
Oh my
a
God.
6 month old. I mean, come on now.
Now see, that's where we haven't done our due diligence.
Right, right. That's why I say, you have to tell these young ladies, and I raised 2 daughters, you can't just go out there sleeping with any and everybody.
Lord have mercy.
Because you're picking up that person's personality, whether you want to believe it or not.
Oh,
Everybody you lay down with, you picking up that personality,
absolutely.
carrying that spirit with you.
You can't, that aura.
This is why I tell these young ladies now, just like I told my 2 daughters, you don't just lay down with anybody.
No.
Because when you're laying down with anybody, you're bringing all these spirits back to your house.
Now I'll tell you, when I mentioned due diligence a few seconds ago, what I mean by that is, when you're dating, if you really want to keep out of a dangerous situation, you have to investigate your date.
Yes.
The way you would investigate a stock that you're going to buy, a home that you're going to buy. Women will, forgive me, Lord. Forgive me, Lord. Forgive me, ladies. Y'all might get mad at me. But y'all will investigate a hairdresser more than you will a man.
And that's the truth. That's the truth. And
They
you
will-
do not have to be forgiven for
They
that,
will be.
because
They
this
will
show
call
is
up their
about the
friends and
truth.
say, "Girl, how did she call? She do a press and curl like that?" But as far as a man, girl, he cute, and that's it. And this is a life investment. When you lay down with that guy, that's a life investment.
Yes, sir.
And that's what these young people don't. They don't understand the value of their bodies.
Yes.
And that's men and women. One time I gave a talk long time ago at church. I gave a talk long time ago, and I told it, and I was telling the young men, that thing you got is just as valuable as the thing she got.
Yes. Yes.
And you have to keep that in mind when you put things in wrong places.
That's right. That's right.
You know what? God bless me. Lord knows he blessed me. I had a baby with a woman that had common sense. And when I think about what could have happened, Lord, thank you.
Yes.
What I could have been with, because there were some people.
Yeah.
I ain't gonna lie. Well, we're gonna leave that there.
Yes. Yes. But just thank God he put you with the woman he put you with.
Absolutely.
And these women have to also understand what the word says. When a man findeth a wife, he findeth a good thing. So if you sleeping around with everybody and getting all these STDs, what make you think a godly man really wants you?
Absolutely not. And you said a key thing. When a man find a good findeth a wife, he find a good thing.
Yeah.
Girl, what you out here doing looking for a husband?
Yeah, I get that a lot. Why you going to all these clubs and stuff? Looking for a husband? Your husband ain't always in the club. And just like
Seldom
you found
is.
him in the club, after you marry him, guess what? He's still going to be in the club.
He's gonna be right back there.
Yes.
He's gonna be right back there. No, I tell young ladies all the time, make yourself be the best you, and then he will find you. Be that shining light that he can't miss you.
Yes. Yes.
But if you call yourself, men are natural predators. And if you take away his ability to chase as far as his woman is concerned,
Okay.
then you've taken his fun away. When I was going out and dating, even before I got with my wife, when I was going out and dating, that was the fun part. Hey man, you see, I'm gonna see if I can get. That's fun. But if a man's sitting there and a girl come up to him, hey baby, how you doing? This ain't no work. If she came, and the first thing he thinking of, if she came up to me, like who else she came up on like that?
Right. Right. And that is a good point. A man, you approach a man, and if he does want a wife, he know that you're not the wife for him.
Absolutely
Because
not.
like he feels like if you approach him, how many other men have you approached?
I married the one who said no. She told me I ain't take. Matter of fact, she gonna get mad at me for telling this story. But I didn't ask.
Tell it, Thomas. Tell us. I'll handle Carol later. Tell it.
I didn't ask her to marry me.
Why rude?
I did not. Because let me tell you what happened. Again, like I said, my daughter was about a year and a half before we got married.
Okay.
And she came up to me one day and she said, look, my daughter's over a year old now. This boyfriend-girlfriend thing ain't gonna work. So either we getting married or I'm moving on.
Okay.
But I must preface it this way though. I didn't ask her to marry her before because I didn't feel worthy.
Okay.
Because I didn't have that place for us and a car and all that sort of. I didn't feel worthy, or else I would
Well, were
have.
you working at the time when she approached you?
No, actually, no.
Okay, so she was going to marry an unemployed man because she loved him and had his baby.
And you know what she told me? She said, well, if you not having a job is what's stopping us, we got to get you a job. Mm-hmm. And she found me a job.
Wow.
So Lord knows, I mean, I ain't that doggone pretty. So she must have saw something in me that I didn't even see in myself.
Right, right.
But with that being notwithstanding, women, these young ladies have to find the jewel in themselves and make themselves be the prize again, or the prize, excuse me.
Yes, yes.
If you're not the prize, then you got the wrong one.
Yes.
But when you start going here and say, well, I'm trying to get with this guy, he already thinking he can take advantage of you.
Yes.
And then when you rebel from that, that's when you get things like domestic violence.
Yes.
Wait a minute, I'm running this here. Where do you think you're going? Bang, bang, bang.
Now, I had this guy. He's going to be in Confessions 2, the book. His issue was he was as nice can be to this young lady. And she started going through his cell phone. And the women that she was calling in his cell phone for not trusting, they weren't married. They didn't say I do. They were just dating and had been dating for 3 months. But she was going through his cell phone, calling these women. And at 3 months, quite naturally, she didn't know everybody in his family, you know. So she was calling his female cousins, checking them about being with her man. She was calling, his barber was a female. She even called his barber. So when he wanted to end that relationship, she became very abusive to him. He was brought up, you don't hit a woman. So he said for those 6 months that he was in that relationship, he ended up hitting a woman. Because she cracked him with a piece that goes into, what did he say, a fireplace, one of those stick things.
A poker.
One of those things. And she cracked him with it in his face, which caused him to have a broken nose, and his reaction was to swing back.
Natural.
He had to go to jail for that. He served 2 years.
Because who's going to believe it?
Yeah, and, you know, that was his point. He had no proof. There was nobody but him and her in there. And that's when I explained to him, just like I tell females, you have to keep a paper trail. If you're a guy and you're being abused, you have to keep a paper trail too.
Absolutely.
Because he should have been able to write down those people she was calling, the dates and times she was calling them, and that would have been his paper trail. When she did scratch up his chest, he should have made a police report on that, and he should have walked away from that relationship before it even got to 6 months.
Absolutely.
But I don't tell anybody to leave anybody, but that relationship was too new. If I'd have known him back then, I would have told him to leave that relationship.
Absolutely.
For his safety, and so he would never have put his hands on a woman. But he hit her so hard from her hitting him, breaking his nose with that, whatever it was. He ended up doing time because he knocked that girl unconscious, but not intentional. You know, so sometimes he was defending himself, but he had to pay for defending himself.
Well, I can feel his pain because when a man in that sort of circumstance, first thing he's thinking is nobody's going to believe it anyway.
Right.
So where am I to go? If you matter of fact, if you just get into a fight and an argument with your wife or whatnot, even today, even if you're not an abuser, and if you get into a fight with her, you got to go.
Yeah.
If the police come there and she says, take him, he got to go.
Well, not necessarily, because I remember calling the police on my husband a couple of times when I was going through all that abuse. They would not take him.
Was that recent?
No. Oh,
no.
Come on now, because you know I've been divorced since 1991. But they told me that they couldn't take him because both of our names was on the mail that came to the house.
They changed that now.
Okay, well, they need to change that. They need to
If the
change
woman
that.
says he take him, they take him. Believe me.
Yeah, well, I don't know. I've heard some strange stories, Thomas. You know, just like the young lady that was on my show, Amy. She shot and killed him. The judge told her to get CPL and told her to get a PPO on that young man. 6 months later, she ended up killing that man. That same judge sentenced her.
Really? Man, that's crazy.
Amy did 4 years in prison for killing her abuser.
That's absolutely crazy.
And they end up getting that reversed because they said the judge didn't do that right.
Well, he had, because there was a trail there.
Yeah, and they had Amy had a big paper trail, and I'm so sorry that happened to her. And so for 4 years, she was away from her children.
Now, was he an abuser?
Yes, he had a history of domestic violence. He had a history of it. When she went to court, she said that's when she found out he had a history of domestic violence.
Well, you know, and the reason why I asked that question, because the one thing I would like to stress to young ladies is, again, that thing that I said, due diligence. When my wife and I, again, first started dating, our second date was a party at my cousin's house, where she got to see the entire nutty family that I do have. But she got to see all of that. And what I mean by that, do your homework. Because as much as he might say he don't like his mama, he going to be his mama. If he don't like his daddy, he's going to be his daddy in some manner, shape, or form. So if there's a dysfunctional relationship there, red flag.
Yes.
Keep your eyes open. Now, sometimes guys slip through the cracks and they can fool you. But generally, more often than not, abusers going to tell you if you really look for the signs.
Yes.
And that's male and female. Because believe me, there's some crazy women out there too.
Oh, yes. And that's one thing I tell these people, yes, the Angel House might help all women, but I will tell anybody, women are just as abusive as men. It's the women that's reporting it, the men. And that's what I want to talk to you about. How come they don't report it?
Embarrassed.
Well, women are embarrassed too that they walking into a police station with a black eye and a busted lip.
Oh, I agree, but there's that male ego thing that, I'll put it to you like this. If you were to call your girlfriend and say, girl, that man hit me, your girlfriends are going to be sympathetic. They're gonna say, girl, come on over here.
They're going to talk about you behind your back, Thomas. They're not going to help you. That's the way women are. They do not tell you, girl, come on over here. They tell you, you better leave that man and keep it moving. They're not going to tell you to come stay with them. Some of them might say, come stay with me for a couple of nights, but you ain't getting past a couple of nights. And then a lot of them nowadays are married, so they're not going to have you come in their house with their man. Are you crazy?
But the first thing a man's going to tell you, if a man's telling another man he's being abused, man, what the heck wrong with you? Pardon my language, but let me see if I can say this gingerly. Man, you don't mind your business. What's wrong with you?
Yeah.
So you're going to be looked at as less than a man from your friends as well as the abuse that you're taking. So that's embarrassment on both ends.
Well, what would you recommend to this guy? And I might have to introduce him to you. He came to the Angel House, and I could not help him. But I ended up finding a male organization for him, but it's not helping him. But he had 5 babies by this woman.
Ooh, that makes it difficult.
They were married, and she was abusive the entire marriage. So she's ironing her clothes. I was talking to him. He did not respond the way she wanted him to. She burst him in the back of his head with that iron where he had to get 22 stitches.
And the children are seeing this.
And I asked him, why haven't you left that relationship? He said, because he wanted to be the father that raised his children. But this is just my point of view. You're going to tell me yours. But I want him to understand, you're telling your children it's all right to be abusive by staying there. Your children are seeing their mother abuse you this way, and that wasn't the first time. You're just telling me about the iron, but what about all the other times? Those children are seeing it, they're crying, they're seeing you not fighting back. But he said he saw his mother be abused all his life. So he couldn't abuse his wife, but yet he was taking abuse from his wife. That's not healthy for those children.
Oh, absolutely not. In that circumstance, you ever see the movie Steve Harvey and Act Like a Woman, Think Like a Man?
No, I never saw that movie.
But in this case, I would advise him to do the opposite. Act like a man, but think like a woman. And in that circumstance, take advantage of every program, things like yours, like the Angel House. Take advantage of every open opportunity that you have to change this circumstance, which is get your children out of there. First and foremost, like you said, paper trail, document. You have an injury, take a picture of it. You have this thing in your pocket. It's a computer and it's a camera. Take a picture of every bruise that you have on. Make police reports, and then as a man, even though if you don't want to talk to your friends, that's fine. But talk to authorities.
Yes.
Get your kids out of there. Because contrary to popular belief, the courts are changing as far as children, as far as custody is concerned. If there's a paper trail of this woman acting a fool, you can get your children.
Yes.
So that would be my advice
exactly
to him.
what I wanted him to understand. I know you want to raise your children in a two-parent household, but sometimes it can't be done.
No.
So something like that, he needs to free himself, but the males that's in his life is not good for him. He needs to talk to a real man. Yeah, he really does, because it's okay to leave your wife and take your children, and the courts will understand if you have that paper trail why you want to raise those children without that wife.
Absolutely. As a matter of fact, you and I have some friends that we've gone to school with that have some programs going on. I don't know if you remember Daryl Motley. I'm going to give him a shout out.
Yes,
Daryl Motley has the Agoge Men's program going on.
Agoge Men's program? Because
Yes.
that was one of my questions to ask you. Do you know of any men programs out here that's willing to help men, even if it's not for what they're doing, mentoring it, but would they help them as far as violence?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Because see, with the Agoge Men's program isn't necessarily geared toward male domestic violence, but it is geared toward building stronger men, which is a part of that
And
process.
that's what he would need, yes.
So there are programs available. Again, these guys they got to look, because the program ain't gonna come find you.
Right. And I want you to say the name of his program again so they can put it up on the screen.
The Agoge Men's program. The operator of the program is Daryl Motley. I don't have his phone number on me handy, but I can get a hold of it and I can get that information for you.
Okay.
We've got,
So
as
if
you and I
you're
know, we've got
interested-
some good friends that are doing great things.
Yeah, so if you're interested in the Daryl Motley program, it's called
Agoge, Agoge.
Okay, so you have the name of that program. If you're interested in getting involved with that program, just contact the Angel House and I'll get that information to Thomas to have it posted on the Angel House page where you know you can go somewhere and get the help that you need.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
We've got some friends doing some great things. Kenny Lohman has his Reach Back and Give program. Now, that's more geared toward children. But like I said, as far as with children is concerned, Frederick Douglass had a great saying, and it made a lot of sense here. It's easier to build strong children than to repair broken men.
Amen. I agree with that one. Yeah.
So with that in mind, even though Kenny's program is more like reaching back for children, this is how we kill the pathology of domestic violence, how it starts.
Yes.
We as black people tend to start fixing things once there's already a problem instead of fixing the problem before it happens.
Right.
So we need to build stronger men. So hopefully there'll be a day that Angel House is not needed.
Yes. I thank you for that, but I will always be an advocate for domestic violence.
Absolutely.
Whether the Angel House is needed or not, I will be an advocate for the rest of my life, not just because I was a victim, but I had a child that was a victim.
Yes.
So I still tell everybody my story. I left my abuser when my children were 4 and 7. I thought it would never happen to them, only to lose my youngest child from the same thing.
Can I tell you a quick story?
Yes.
You mentioned that you didn't, when I came back getting in contact with you, you didn't know how that happened. And I'll tell you exactly how. Do you remember that you and I used to talk back and forth on Facebook about having our grandchildren together?
Yes.
Karen and I would have that conversation, and all of a sudden she disappeared. And I didn't see her on Facebook anymore. I'm like, okay, what the heck's going on? Because my grandson and Karen's granddaughter were supposed to be born at the same time. So sometimes I'm a little hesitant to even tell you about him because I know.
Oh, no. That you all have to tell you all. That's therapy for me. I don't get to hold Ashton. She would have been 7 this May.
Absolutely.
Past May, so I don't get to do all that. But it's a joy seeing what I could have had in other people's children and grandchildren.
But when I didn't hear from you, I said, something's going on, but I didn't want to pry and just say, Karen, what's going on? And then when I was able to put two and two together and seeing what was happening, I'm like, I got to get a hold of her. And just to let her know that it hurt me, because I was looking forward to my grandson and your granddaughter playing together. That hurt me a lot.
Oh, yeah.
But that's selfish. But
no, that's not selfish. That's what you call love. Love in between family and friends.
Absolutely.
That's love. And I'm quite sure if your grandson was here in Michigan and he lived here, you would share him with me.
yes,
That's because
he'd take your chair right now.
That's because it's just that kind of love that, when you grow up together, and although we didn't grow up from kids, we grew up from 9th grade to 12th grade together, but we still were friends. We still knew how to love on one another, appreciate each other, and do for each other, and I don't forget those type of things.
Absolutely.
I just do not.
But it hurt me deeply when I found out what happened to you. And you will always have my heart. And the things that you have done since then, God has a special place for you.
And that's God doing that too. It's not me. It's God, because by right, I feel like I should have lost my mind when I lost one of my Bushnicks. It was just me and them. From the time they were 7 and 4, I raised them by myself. Their father wasn't in their life. They saw their father from time to time, but it wasn't like he wanted to be a part of their life, because if he did, he would have put them drugs down to raise his family. But all that's in the past now, so I have to go on. I lost Tracy to domestic violence because of domestic violence. And the way she was gone out of here, I just really believe I should have lost my mind. But because of God, I did not. I tell everybody, I put that Bible down. I didn't talk to God for 2 whole weeks when I found out she was gone. And then you have to look at it, it hurts even more because she wasn't gone from Detroit, Michigan, where she was born at. After she went away to college and went on with her life, she went to Texas and she was living there, and that's where her life was taken at. So it hurts every day of my life. But it's another young lady that worked with me for the state of Michigan. She had a daughter. Her and my daughter were pregnant at the same time. And she had a daughter. So now her daughter turned 7 in May, too. I think about her. I'm on her Facebook page all the time looking at her daughter. I'm watching your grandson and her daughter grow. And now she's getting ready to have her second baby.
Oh, my.
So all that just brings joy to me. People think it hurts me, but it doesn't. It helps me. It actually helps me.
That's good.
And,
then I'll flood your face with pictures in.
Yes, please do. Please do. Please feel free. And another thing, too, a lot of people think because I lost Tracy and Ashton, I don't want to be around. It was a good while where I couldn't walk through a store in the baby department, but I'm good with it now.
Okay.
I'm doing I had to go get a gift for a baby shower this weekend, so I'm getting better and better. But it's therapy for me.
Absolutely.
And it was when I go to speak in those elementary schools and those little kids ask me, well, did you hug her goodbye? I have to be strong enough not to cry to let them know she was in another state, so I didn't get to hug her goodbye. I didn't get to say farewell to her. And a lot of them would ask me, well, how did you get the baby in the casket? What if she was in her belly? And it's hard to explain to a child that she was stabbed so much that the baby delivered herself, but the placenta was still stuck in her nose, so she didn't get to breathe to live. So now you see why he got 2 counts of life without the possibility of parole.
Absolutely.
At 8 months, Ashton could have lived.
My God.
Yeah, so, and then he stabbed her so much. One picture that they showed in the courtroom, I thank God that every time they got ready to show the pictures, they would tap me and my daughter Rachel on our shoulder so we could leave out. But my sister and Tracy's best friend, they would not leave that courtroom. My sister felt like if his family is going to see these pictures, I'm going to see them too.
Absolutely.
But it caused her to have to go to therapy to get help, because sitting there watching that wasn't good. And I know if I couldn't have watched it, I don't see how she did it. But she did it. But it caused her to have to get therapy. So,
my God.
To talk to these children, to answer their questions about them. And then you got these little knuckleheads, boys that's in 7th and 8th grade, asking, well, why didn't you shoot him? Why? You have to learn the word. You're in the 7th and 8th grade now, but you still have to learn the word. That young man took my daughter's life. And do you know, like I said, I didn't talk to God for 2 weeks, but I think it was because I was confused. I didn't know how to think. I didn't know where my mind was. But God still showed me, and He showed me in His Word. Yes, He took your child's life, a gift that I gave you. But with you being my child, a woman of God, you have to forgive him. You have to pray for him and pray that he finds God while he's incarcerated.
Oh my God.
And I'm like, Lord, you really dealing with me like this?
Now, see, for me, those young men, those little 7th and 8th graders that were asking you, why didn't you shoot him and this, that, and the other? That's the one I want to reach.
Yeah, because even the one that asked me why I didn't put a hit out on him.
And see, that's where we need to stop that train of thought before it grows.
Yes.
And then they grow up to be abusers as well.
Yes. Yes.
And that's where I want. See, I've always believed that, especially in the African American community, we constantly deal with the problem after it's already started, and we have to deal with the pathology where it began.
Yes.
Or and stop it before it began.
Yeah.
It's kind of like taking a vaccine and stopping the disease before you get it, and that's what we don't do.
Right.
We tell our children and our parents, spare the rod, spoil the child. Well, you're building another beater.
Yes, that's exactly what you're doing. That's why I say when you're telling your kids what go on in the house, stay in the house, don't teach them that.
No.
That's one of the worst things to teach them.
No, absolutely not.
I totally agree with you. We have to start getting them in 7th and 8th grade and earlier if possible to teach them like that. So I am going to pray that you get that mentor program going to help these young men grow up to be the men that they're supposed to be.
You know what? I saw years ago on a sports show, there was a guy named Wesley Unseld, basketball player. And for some reason they were talking about Christmas. And the guy that was interviewing him asked him a question. He said, what's the best Christmas present you ever got? And Wesley Unseld said, the best present my father ever gave me was that he loved my mother.
Wow.
And the thought process behind that was, and it taught me that my daughter will never see me hating her mother, or never see me being abusive toward her mother. What he was saying is his father taught him how to love his woman. And if I can do that as an example, if I don't do anything else as a father, hopefully I've done that. You have to ask her if I've been successful. But if I can't do anything else but give her that example, because her father did it for me. When I tried to take her out, I was the first date we had. We went to the Olympia, and after the date, I asked her if she wanted to go get some White Castle. She said, "What's that?" Because her father took her to the finest restaurants. I'm like, really? I'm like, oh, this bro thinks she, But he made it difficult for me because he laid the groundwork that she wasn't willing to accept. And that's the example that I tried to use with my daughter, with these women who, again, fancy themselves as the prize. They won't be abused.
Yes. Yeah. Now, let me ask you that too, Thomas. Now, I hear everything you're saying, but you're still a man. If your daughter caught a flight back to Michigan and she had a black eye, a broken arm, and busted ribs, I want to know your reaction.
My first reaction would be, he's going to die. But you also have to be careful in those circumstances. You don't want to have the abused become the protector of the abuser. So sometimes in those circumstances, you don't want the abuser saying, "I can't tell Dad because Dad will kill him." So you have to talk to her and see where her heart is at. But deep down, at the end of the day, I'm gonna kill him. So I have to talk to God and say, "Lord, where do you want me in this?" But I gotta be honest. I can't lie to your audience or to you.
You're human. You're flesh.
He's gonna be like my daddy used to say. I'll be out of jail before he be out the hospital at the very minimum, and more than likely he ain't getting out the grave. To be honest.
And saying that and you answering me, it reminds me. One time my husband jumped on me so bad. My dad was calling me, and my husband wouldn't let me answer that phone. And we were still tussling back and forth. He was throwing me around like a wet rag, but the phone was knocked off the hook. But I thought the phone had stopped ringing. But Willie Lee White heard what was going on. Willie Lee White was a correctional officer for the state of Michigan. He did not come to my house empty-handed.
No.
And I never seen anything like this. And my husband was much taller than my father. But my father lifted him up, something I won't forget, and put that pistol to his neck. And he told him, this will be the last time you ever do anything to her. Do you understand this? And he told my father, yes, he understood it. So I was, he never jumped on me when my daughters was around. I have to say that much. But my daughters were with my father and my stepmother at that time. So I don't know whether my father was saying he was dropping my daughter off or what, because I was 8 months pregnant with Tracy when my dad died. So he never got to meet Tracy. So he, like I said, my husband never jumped on me in front of my child. But when she was with my parents or whatever, it would happen. But I will never, ever forget that day. I stayed on Greenfield in a duplex between 7 and 6 miles. I just won't forget that. That man never, ever put his hands on me. But my father died.
And he thought he had free reign at that point.
My father died, so he tried it again.
It was time to go.
Yeah, it was time for me to go.
It was time to
It
go.
was time for me to go. It was time for me to go. Oh, I just got so much to tell behind my story, but I'm going to tell my story eventually one day too.
Absolutely.
But I thank you. I really thank you for coming on this show, being honest, letting your flesh side come out to say what would have happened if your daughter was abused, because we need to know the truth.
Yes.
We need to know the truth. Yes, we're saying how abusers need to be handled. They need to be brought out of the situations that they're in. They need to be helped, just like the victims need to be helped. We have to pray for the victims to get away from those relationships, and we have to pray for the abusers to learn that they're not to do this type of thing. But we're not saying we have to kill them. But a lot of people do kill the abusers, and it's just sad. It's a sad thing all the way around, and I want all of it to end. And I can't stop it by myself. So I need people like you wanting to open up mentor programs. I need people like Kenny helping guys from young up. You know,
Exactly.
we need that. We really, really need that. That's the only way this world is going to change. And just like you were saying, you know, it happens in the African American communities. I need people to know that it's just not black people that's going through abuse. You all want to put our race down for always being abused, but it's happening with the white, the Hispanic, the Filipino. It's happening with all of the races.
Absolutely.
It's just the black ones that make the news, you know, and the other ones do make the news from time to time. I'm not putting that down, but I would need people to know that abuse just does not happen to blacks or just black females.
No.
It's happening to all the races.
Absolutely.
Yes.
And we need to speak to all of them.
Yes. So if you did have a program with that, you're saying you're not just going to help African American guys.
No, absolutely not.
Yeah.
No, it's just that would be my strong point.
Yes.
But as far as we're all God's children.
Yes.
And we all face the same problems. And as soon as we realize that, we can come together as one. We can get rid of some of these divisive lines that we have in society and understand that we all just want to be God's children and live a good, prosperous life.
Yes.
And that means keeping your hands to yourself in these circumstances.
Yes. Yes,
But it was a blessing for me to be able to come here and talk to you.
Well, I thank you, and I thank you and your wife for being my friend and being able to be there when I call you all. And it just shocks me that I was just telling my sister, I said, you know, Tracy's friends always call and check on me. It's been 7 years, and they call and check on me. But I have to say this, your wife, she don't have to call me and check on me. She would text me and say, I'm just thinking about you today.
Absolutely.
So I thank you for both of your love towards me, for helping me stay strong, because it's people like you that help me stay strong so I can help other people.
Absolutely.
And people don't know that listening to all these domestic violence stories and doing these PDIs on people, or that's a personal data information base that I have to keep on every victim that comes to the Angel House. So doing all these PDIs, me listening to all these stories, it's draining for me. So it's good for me to have people in my life that love me enough to check on me, to say, okay, I know you're hearing all these crazy stories, you're dealing with these different personalities and stuff. How are you? But I still see my psychiatrist. I still see my therapist. And there's nothing wrong with it. But I'm never going to stop helping people. And if it means that I have to continue to see my therapist and continue to see my psychiatrist, continue writing books to help individuals, that's exactly what I'm going to do.
And that's another aspect that black men really have a shortcoming on. We'll fix our cars. We won't fix our mind.
Did you all hear what he said? Say it well for me one more time.
We will fix our cars, but we will not fix our own mind.
And if you love a woman, men, like you say you love these women, you will get that mind fixed. So you won't just be repairing the car and being mad at your boss and taking it out on your wife.
Absolutely.
That's not good. So I did a program once, Thomas, where I went in to this company, not calling any names out, but they had me come into their company to speak to their employees. What they were finding, and I'm finding it to be so, they were 100% plus right. These people are being abused at home, and they coming to work taking it out on their co-workers.
Absolutely.
Or their bosses, and they don't realize they can lose their jobs for that. Because just because you cannot defend yourself at home doesn't give you the right to come on your job and abuse other people because you want to retaliate, because you couldn't retaliate last night when you were going through all that abuse. So a lot of them are not even aware that they're doing that.
No.
So I would like you to team up with me sometime when I go into those employers and talk to those. They call it a lunch and learn. And I talk to them about abuse. A lot of them don't realize, dang, I've been actually bringing this to work, taking it out on my coworkers. And, you know, I've even had, at that lunch and learn, a young lady got up and went to the other lady and told her, I'm so sorry for cussing you out, but I was dealing with that at home myself.
Absolutely.
And so you don't just lose your job because of your attendance from being abused. You lose your job or get suspended or time off without pay because, yes, you are being abused at home, but you're coming to work taking it out on your coworkers.
What you're bringing there.
Yes. So, yep.
Absolutely. Anytime, just say the word.
Yes, and I thank you for that because I'm willing to help anybody. And if you are taking your abusiveness to work and hurting your coworkers, you do need help.
Absolutely.
And I thank God that the employers, they didn't call any of the employees out. They just had everybody come in there. And I was there for 4 hours, so I did 4 different lunch and learns on that property.
Okay.
So each group had lunch hours at different times. So I would love for you to participate if those things grow for me.
Absolutely.
Because
just say the word.
Like it's men and women in there, the women might have heard me, but did the men hear me? You see what I'm saying? So
yes. I
would love for us to team up with that and get that going, to get into Ford, Chrysler, General Motors, any of them. There's some of these people that's making parts for the big 3, Amazon. I need to get into all those different companies to talk about domestic violence to their employees.
Absolutely. Count me in.
Okay. Now, y'all heard him say that, so he can't back down on me. Yeah. He cannot back down on me. So I want to know right now, you see a 21-year-old female come to you, matter of fact, on your job, and say, I can't go home. I can't take it no more. You don't see my eyes or my mouth busted, but my ribs are bruised up really bad. What would you say to that victim?
The first thing I would say to her is, if she intends to leave, and that's the first thing she should do, is leave. Don't give a preview of you leaving, because we all know that once you tell that man, I'm leaving you, if you tell him that, that is the most dangerous time in your life. Make it be a total surprise. Fix his lunch, give him a nice dinner, and get the heck out of there, first and foremost. After that, it's kind of, I don't know, for us men, it's kind of, we look at it from a business standpoint.
A marriage?
Yes.
A relationship?
Absolutely. That's the biggest business you can enter, business partnership you can enter into. Okay. So under those circumstances, this is how men think about it. Okay, she's mad at me. Let me go get my checkbook. let me go get my credit cards. Any way she can hit me financially, that's the way men think, because that's what we're thinking. So in that regard, women have to, like Steve Harvey said, act like a woman, think like a man. Get your stuff together where you can get out of there and go. As far as your emotion is concerned, we'll deal with your emotion when your physical body is safe. So that would be my first thing, telling her. Then, as far as after leaving, that's when she has to get her spiritual and emotional self together. And that's between her, God, her therapist, and if she wants to talk to me, I'm fine with it. But you have to work on those things. But the first thing is get out.
Okay,
First.
yeah, this is another scenario that has happened at the Angel House, and I won't tell you what country club I was at due to I need to protect women. Husbands, judges, lawyers, doctors, some of them were principals and stuff, but I wasn't allowed to go back to that country club and talk. But I didn't get to have those women free themselves because their thing was finance. How am I going to survive if I leave this situation? But I need to get these victims to know you got to trust God to take care of you. It's not always about money, you know, because you get into this relationship. You all went to college together. You became a dentist. He became some type of doctor, and you can make it on your own. You know, I don't care if the husband worked at Wendy's and he worked at White Castles. You can make it on your own. And just because you're married to this prominent person, don't think you can't make it on your own.
Oh, absolutely.
And you know, they think that, well, do I have to go after his money? God will make a way for you.
Well, see, you don't have to think that far ahead business-wise.
Oh, yes, they do, Thomas. They do. These are women I speak with. They think like that.
But that's the mistake they're making.
Yeah.
The first thing you leverage is where you're going to sleep tonight.
Right.
Then you worry about tomorrow and the next day and the next day. If you don't deal with tonight, you ain't making tomorrow.
Well, I've had some of them tell me they can't go to a different state because he would have them killed, or they can't go to a different state because they never lived in a shelter before. Well, if your ribs and stuff is busted up as bad as you are, you need to go to another state so he can't find you, so you can start a fresh new life. But I don't think I can work in a hamburger place or a laundromat. You can work anywhere you can to take care of you and your children. Okay, so what we're going to do now is we're going to close out in prayer.
Okay.
Okay, and we are going to ask you to close us out in prayer. And I thank you so much for coming on my show.
Oh, thank you, baby. Dear Heavenly Father, thank you for this moment. Thank you for this breath that you've given us. Thank you for the food that you put on our tables. Thank you for this information that we're able to put forth. And hopefully, Heavenly Father, we touch one person. Or hopefully we've touched thousands. But if we just touch just one, Lord,
yes,
we have done your will. And that's all we strive to do, Lord, is do your will and do your bidding. And get these people into safety, Lord.
Yes, Lord.
To welcome them into the bosom of your safety, Lord. Let them know that you are there for them.
Yes, Father.
Keep us in your arms and keep them in your arms, Lord Father, as we try to make a safe way for these people to find their way back to you, Lord. But these things we pray for Christ's sake. In Jesus' name, amen.
Amen. Thank you, thank you, thank you. And again, I need all of my audience to know to come back next Tuesday to see our next guest. And we thank you for having Thomas Guyton with us tonight. God bless you all. And remember to send those donations in to the Angel House so we can save a life every day. God bless you all.
Amen.
Okay, so you can go. I got you. Wait.